All right, I'm just gonna walk through how I redid the floor in the Chevy S10 97. Up here, there's about a hole the size of my hand. So it's important if you're doing this, you need to cut out everything that's bad. You can't overlap rust with new sheets of metal because it'll capture moisture and it'll just rust away even faster. So make sure you cut out everything that's bad. Even up here, I'm gonna have to either cut away or really sand it down to the bare metal and coat it after I get the welds in there. But I have a floor pan on the way that's gonna go about to here. And then this part was also rusted out right under the seat. So I had to go downstairs, get the old washer, and I made a template with cardboard. Just set it right here, and then you kind of just eyeball it, use a Sharpie, mark some lines, and then add on where you need. But make a template out of cardboard. It's probably the easiest and fastest way to do it. And then I took that template and put it on the side of the old washer and then cut it out with the cutoff wheel. I know not everyone's gonna have a old washer to use, but if you do, that is a possibility because it works super well. It's about the same thickness as the original metal that was in the truck. So if you do have one, that's an idea. So this is what I was working with the washer. I just stuck my template on the side of the washer and cut it out. So this isn't gonna be the same for everyone, but if you do have a 97 S10, right here there's about an inch gap that you need to figure out. So this isn't sinking. So what I did was I took about a foot piece of composite and then I lined it up with the frame, and then I placed it under the sheet. Once I got this cut out, I placed it where I wanted it, and then I took a tapping screw and I just drilled it right into that piece of composite so it doesn't move. And then once I get this weld in, that's not going anywhere. So that's just so it doesn't sink in at all. And then wherever your rust is, make sure that when you're cutting out all the bad spots, you want to take maybe a piece of exhaust metal or some kind of thin metal like that I used, and I would just wedge it under here to cover all the lines. You don't want to nick those. That could be really serious. So make sure you cover those up when you're creating all the sparks. Then for the other side, I'm thinking I'm gonna go to town with the grinder, get to that bare metal in most spots, and then go over it with some rust paint so that the rust stops. It's just surface rust, so the other side should be all right. We won't have to replace that. All right, so I knocked most of the rust off on the other side. It's not gonna be perfect. I didn't get everything, but this is a 97 Chevy, so I'm not too worried about it. It's an old truck. But I'm gonna coat it with some rust barrier on the other side, and then I'm gonna get back to here and get the floor pan in, and then I'll get this side with the rust barrier after that's all complete. But for now, I'm gonna do the passenger side, since it's not nearly as bad as the driver's side. So already that looks so much better. I'm just coating that with the rust barrier. That's gonna be great. I'll get this side coated with the rust barrier after the floor pan goes in and I finish this up on the back edge. Another thing I forgot to mention is when you're doing all this work on your car, especially welding, make sure your battery's disconnected because that can be very dangerous and can cost you a lot of wiring in your car. All right, so I'm gonna see if I can get a decent weld for this first plate. I'll be using the flux core welder from Harbor Freight, the 125, so we'll see how that goes, see if I can even get the thing secured. All right, so it's been a few days. What we're doing now is I got the floor pan in the mail, and it's quite large, so I'm gonna have to make some cuts. As you can see, I started cutting already. Basically what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna be cutting away at the rusted bottom of the truck until this kind of goes in. And the more I can cut away on the truck, the better, because you don't want to have that pocket of moisture forming when you put your new pan in. So the more you can cut away, the better. As you can see, there's still some spots up here that I could probably cut out and get that rust out. The only thing is, you know, this has to be able to fit in, and I don't want to cut too much off before putting that in there. So I think the best way to do it is to cut, put it in, see if it fits, see where you need to make adjustments, and keep doing that. Just don't cut too much away first, because it's easier to cut away than to, you know, have to weld something on there. So if we put it in how it is now, it's getting there. All right, there's the last cut I made. It's getting real close here. Well, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I got a big gap right here I need to fix. I might just end up cutting this off and then doing like a lap joint and putting something in the middle of there. I don't know. We'll see. We're getting real close here. Making some relief cuts right here and here so that you can kind of hammer this into the original existing floor. It makes it a lot easier with those cuts. So I just took a hammer to that. So that's going to be a lot easier of a weld with that bend there. So basically what you want to do is just shape this thing as well as you can to the original floor, making cuts, hammering, whatever you have to do to make it fit. I did have to cut this out right here because this is a frame mount, and it would just not sit right with this pan, with the original pan, how it came. So I had to make a cut there, and that's all right. I can sand that and paint that, but as long as it's solid, shouldn't be a problem. All right, I got some crappy welds in there, so it's solid. Everything's in there. So now I'm gonna do a little bit of sanding around the joints, do some rust barrier protection paint, and then after that we're gonna seal all of the little cracks up with probably some kind of silicone or caulking or some kind of gap filler, and then probably paint that over and then go from there. Time to seal everything up. I'm gonna be using some liquid nail heavy duty construction adhesive to I'm going to use this first. So this stuff's pretty strong, and it's not going to let you don't want any exhaust or any water getting in the truck, obviously, or whatever you're doing. And then I'm going to use some gaps and cracks insulating foam from Lowe's to get all the big gaps. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, so this is what we're looking like after all of the gap filler here is in. I went around all the edges and filled the gaps with this stuff, and then I just shaved it off with a knife so it wasn't as bulky, because I need to put some metal beams across here to weld the seats in, because these original mounts, as you can see over here, the two pegs right there, they're not going to be over here anymore. So I'm going to have to figure something else out to put in the seats. So those are gone. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but the most important thing is to make sure that the floor is sturdy and there's no gaps, so there's no exhaust, no water, no air coming through there. So I think I did that, and I guess there's one way to find out is to start driving it, see if there's any gaps, and if there is, I'll go back in there and reseal it. But I love the way it looks, although you're not going to be able to see it, but it is much more solid now with the liquid nails in there. Everything seems pretty good. So I hope this all helped. I'll probably put in some videos of what it looks like, you know, in a couple days, but that's all for now. Oh.